name is Ryan Cam, and welcome to a supersized edition of the 1996 project. Yeah, I missed a week. That is completely on me. Finals, what can I say? But I'm going to speed run through these because just decided to sandwich 2 weeks into one. So without any further ado, let's just get started. And let's get started with legit one of the worst movies I've covered in this project, Celtic Pride.
Something terribly wrong. And I might have to go to jail and become some bad man's boyfriend.
That's nice, Peanut.
Celtic Pride.
Celtic Pride was directed by Tom DiCerchio. It was written by Judd Apatow. Yes, that Judd Apatow. And it starred Dan Aykroyd, Daniel Stern, and Marlon Wayans. It tells the story of two Celtic superfans, the Boston Celtics, if you will, played by Daniel Stern and Dan Aykroyd. They have an unhealthy obsession with the Celtics to the point where in Game 6 of the NBA playoffs, at the end of the game, Celtics lose, and they decide to take matters into their own hands by kidnapping the Utah Jazz's star player, played by Marlon Wayans. So this movie's crap. Like, it's not funny in the slightest. And it hit me at a certain point where I said to myself, okay, obsessed fans kidnap or otherwise harass the star player of another or their team. And it's played up for laughs. When I know for a fact that later on in this project, I'm covering a movie called The Fan, where that premise is pretty much the same thing, except that's taken seriously. So what are we doing here? Daniel Stern and Dan Aykroyd can be funny, but these two were just so annoying here. I couldn't stand them 15 minutes in. Daniel Stern especially is just rough to watch. He can be funny, but here he is not. And it really just boils down to the whole joke is that they're so obsessed that they can't handle anything. It's not funny. It never was funny, not even on accident. Marlon Wayans is a complete jerk. I normally like Marlon Wayans. He is funny. Watch Major Payne if you want proof of that. But here, he's just your arrogant basketball player trope. And it was annoying to watch that as well. There was not a single funny moment here. This was a trudge to sit through. This movie's horrid. It's one of the worst movies I've covered for the project. And now we move on to something that's slightly better, but not by much. It's Faithful.
Before my life.
But how do you know he hired you?
The man gave me half the money up front.
Who? What's his name?
I don't give names.
Wait, he's a fake!
Faithful was directed by Paul Mazursky, who had previously directed Robin Williams in Moscow on the Hudson, and it starred Cher and Chaz Palminteri. It is based on Chaz Palminteri's play. It tells the story of a woman, played by Cher, who is trapped in a 20-year passionless marriage. Like, they had passion, but it has long since disappeared. And so, through an arrangement, she decides to take her own life via a botched break-in of sorts from a robber played by Chaz Palminteri. And this movie was yet another chore to sit through. Not completely unwatchable. Cher is actually giving a good performance, and Chaz Palminteri is fine, but this was just a bore to sit through. The movie was 90 minutes and it felt twice that, because most of it is just Chaz Palminteri telling you this character's life story. And it's never a happy story. It all just blended together at a certain point that I'm just struggling to remember it myself. Cher is just tied to a chair for the movie, and that's just not really interesting. This movie just feels just very much like a bleh to me. This movie's very forgettable. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not all that watchable either. Both of these movies honestly could belong in something like, say, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Oh, speaking of Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie.
2.5 years in the making.
Oh no, Tinkerbell's going down. Pull up, Tinker! Oh, no.
Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie.
Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, was directed by Jim Mallon and starred Michael J. Nelson and, well, the various robots of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And this is pretty much an episode of that show stretched to 73 minutes, where the crew watches this island Earth under the guise of torture, I guess. And torture is what I felt watching this. I've seen Mystery Science Theater 3000. I've laughed at Mystery Science Theater 3000. Haven't seen all the episodes. I'm not a super fan, but I know enough about it to appreciate why it is funny. Like, I've even used a couple of clips from Mystery Science Theater 3000 in these reviews, so I am a fan. I just didn't care for this at all. And it's just a very blink and you miss it kind of movie. The movie's 73 minutes long. It's very short, but yet it somehow feels long. For something like this Island Earth, which I've heard nothing but bad things about, you'd think there'd be more material there, but I just felt like there wasn't. And then there's these random segments where they're trying to do a story, which I've seen enough Mr. Science Theater 3000 to know that they do stories within the episodes. I get that, but there's nothing really interesting there. It just it felt like a waste of time. This movie is another one that is pretty forgettable. Again, I like Mystery Science Theater 3000. It is funny. This was not. I needed some kind of a savior for this, and thankfully, I found one in the most unexpected of places. This is The Substitute.
You are history.
When we're done, I want you to say I'm sorry. Shh.
No talking in the library.
The Substitute was directed by Robert Mandel, who would go on to direct School Ties, another school-based movie with not the ton of action that's here, but I digress. And the movie starred Tom Berenger, Mark Anthony, and Ernie Hudson. It tells the story of a former U.S. Special Ops soldier named Jonathan, played by Tom Berenger, who, when he hears that his girlfriend has broken her leg thanks to a student at her incredibly rowdy school, he decides to take matters into his own hands by passing himself off as a substitute and investigating the school. And what he finds is something pretty sinister. When I tell you that this movie gave me like just the most uplift I had felt in days, I tell you it's the truth. As having suffered through three mediocre at best movies and then watching this, I was just like, thank you, God. There is a God in this world. There's at least something interesting happening here. Tom Berenger is really good. He is definitely doing a bit of a Joe Clark impression, but honestly, it was pretty welcome. I liked that spin on things. Mark Anthony was a pretty sinister villain. Mark Anthony is a singer. He is a big deal in Latin America. He's won 5 Latin Grammy Awards, so he's a big deal. And he was honestly pretty good here. He's been in a few movies after this. He was also a Man on Fire. So, yeah, he had a bit of an acting career after this as well. Ernie Hudson is predictably great, and just this is just a pretty compelling little movie. It has a good story. It's got good action sequences for a movie like this. I was expecting the action to be kind of shoddy in places, but no, it actually, for the most part, was well done. For nitpicks, I didn't particularly care for some of the effects. Like, there's one scene where a kid gets shot and is thrown back, but you can clearly see the wires like yanking him back. Again, filmmaking's hard, so I don't want to come across as harsh unnecessarily, but that one was not a great looking shot there. But mostly, this one was very good. I'm going to give this a great rating. Yeah, thank God for The Substitute, because that one was desperately needed. But now we go on from that to a HBO movie, which is just pretty good. It's called Soul of the Game. Soul of the Game was directed by Kevin Rodney Sullivan and starred Delroy Lindo, easy for me to say, McKelty Williams, Edward Herman, and R. Lee Ermey, among others. And this tells the story, well, more of the inside story of the Negro Leagues. That was how it was called back then. So that was called the Negro Leagues. Basically, Branch Rickey, who is the guy that signed Jackie Robinson to the Brooklyn Dodgers and started off that whole thing. It tells his story about how he finds Jackie Robinson, but also a couple of other players. It's basically a dog. It's basically a horse race to determine who is going to be the first African American baseball player in the major leagues. It's between Jackie Robinson, Satchel Paige, and Josh Gibson. So HBO movies in this project and the 99 project have been kind of hit and miss. Some great ones, some forgettable ones. This is the rare one that it's just kind of in the middle. I thought it was just okay. Great acting, though. That's the highlight, though. Delroy Lindo is great. McKelty Williams is great. Arlie Ermy is surprisingly good. Edward Herrmann's great. There's not a bad performance to be had here. And this is just a fascinating movie in that it's a period piece, but it's a period piece about something that I'm not super familiar with. Like I've seen 42, I've watched the I've watched enough baseball in my life, so I knew a little bit about the history, but I didn't know about the inside stuff, and this one was particularly informative. It doesn't go too deep into any one of their stories, that being Robinson, Page, or Gibson, but we have 42 for that, so there's the Jackie Robinson story right there. I wanted to know a little more about Satchel Paige, though. I thought he was pretty compelling. Overall, I am going to give this a good rating. This one was pretty enjoyable, but nothing more beyond that. But now we go from sports drama to sort of kind of thriller drama thing. It's Butterfly Kiss.
You got to look for the good in people. I mean, there's good and bad in everyone, isn't there?
Butterfly Kiss was directed by Michael Winterbottom, and it starred Amanda Plummer, Saskia Reeves, and Kathy Jameson, among others. It tells the story of a woman named Eunice, played by Amanda Plummer, who is a drifter and, well, not all there mentally. She's trying to find this woman named Janice, who does not exist, but Judith, excuse me, but she ends up linking up with a gas station cashier named Miriam. And, well, they have a pretty steamy relationship. This one is a weird one to place because on the one hand, the acting's solid, there's some genuinely shocking moments, but this story is just kind of weird and all over the place. Like Amanda Plummer's great. I love the chemistry that she had with Miriam. I thought they had a good rapport. You can definitely tell that there's a lot wrong up here in regards to Eunice's character, and the movie does a good job of telling you that without telling you that. Like, show, don't tell, if you will. There's definitely some shocking stuff here, like this one poor van driver. He just gets totally, like, just totally wrecked, and I felt so sorry for him. And Eunice just she's just a bit of a weird character. Like she wears this chainmail as like a bra of some kind and it just wraps around her. I'm like, that cannot be comfortable. Like it just comes across as crazy for the sake of being crazy, I guess for lack of a better word. It's a bit of one of those too weird to live, too rare to die kind of movies, but I did like it enough to give it a good rating. It's not perfect, but I did overall like it more than I was expecting to, personally. But now we get to a weird one, but a very good weird one. It's Cemetery Man.
Stop killing the dead. Why don't you just kill the living? Are you listening to me?
Don't you believe me?
No.
Tough.
Man was directed by Michele Soavi. I hope I got that right. It is from Italy. It was released in 1994 in Italy, but didn't get to the States until 96. There it was called Della Morte dell'Amore. Great title, for the record. It tells the story of a man named Francesco, played by Rupert Everett, who would go on to voice Prince Charming in Shrek 2 and 3. Yes, who runs a cemetery where the dead just can't stay dead. And so it's basically up to him to figure out a way how to keep the dead dead. The best way that I can describe this is the Italian Evil Dead. If that interests you, then you're gonna love this. I love all flavors of Evil Dead. I loved this movie with my whole heart. It's gruesome, it's funny, it's dark, but it's also like darkly funny. The practical effects are just fantastic. Like there's just some scenes where I'm just like, how was that accomplished? Like there's a scene where Francesco's assistant goes in, he digs up this grave, finds the casket, breaks open the casket because there's a piece of glass to see the face, breaks open the glass. You can tell it's sugar glass or some kind of real tangible glass-like substance. So you know it's there. He takes out the glass. There's a real head in there, or not a real head, but a prosthetic. And then chops off the head, grabs the head and be like, huh, a head. And then places it on the ground, and then the head follows him away. I can't I can't do it justice. It just has to be seen to be believed. This movie's getting an amazing grade. Like I said, it's Italian Evil Dead. If you like that, you're gonna love this. But now we cap things off with I Can't Believe It's Not Chinatown, aka Mullholland Falls.
Treat Williams, Jennifer Connelly, Andrew McCarthy, and John Malkovich.
Some people die before their time so that others can live. It's a cornerstone of civilization.
Mullholland Falls.
Mullholland Falls was directed by Lee Tamahori, who would later go on to direct one of the worst James Bond movies of all time, Die Another Day. Just bless him. And the movie starred Nick Nolte, Melanie Griffith, Chaz Palminteri, there he is again, William Peterson for one scene, but he is also there, and Michael Madsen and Jennifer Connelly, mostly in flashbacks. It tells the story of a group of LA cops who have a special gangster squad kind of thing going on in the 50s. They come across the murder of a young woman, played by Connelly, and, well, let's just say that Nolte has more of a connection to this woman that he's willing to let on. So this one was just kind of weird. Like, this cast should have been more interesting than it was, but it was not. It was just kind of there, really, which sucks because, like I said, this cast is great. And the acting is solid for the most part, and you can tell that there is a lot of interesting things going on there, but just it's never properly shown, and it just kind of exists, really. This movie overall just kind of exists. This is pretty forgettable. One of the more disappointing ones that I've covered for this project so far. But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of any of the movies I've talked about? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.